Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are talking about on 8 ways to create balance and fulfillment in life. Everything begins within. Before you can shape the world around you, you must first understand the world inside you. Self-awareness is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's the foundation upon which balance is built and the compass that guides every step toward fulfillment. Too often we move through life reacting instead of reflecting. We wake up and go through routines set by habit, not intention. We get pulled in 10 different directions, by expectations, by pressure, by distraction, until we no longer recognize whose life we're living. But the truth is, fulfillment never comes from following the noise. It comes from knowing the source. And that source is you. Self-awareness is not just about knowing your strengths. It's about confronting your shadows. It's the courage to ask, what am I really afraid of? Why do I keep repeating this pattern? What's the story I keep telling myself, and is it even true? It's a deep and sometimes uncomfortable look at the parts of ourselves we usually hide from the world and from ourselves. When you become self-awareness, you stop blaming circumstances and start building character. You begin to understand the difference between reaction and response. Instead of letting your emotions control you, you learn to recognize them as signals, not commands. Anger becomes an invitation to look deeper. Fear becomes a mirror reflecting where growth is needed. Even jealousy transforms from poison to potential when you ask, what is this really telling me about what I want? Self-awareness isn't built in one day. It's a lifelong conversation with your soul. It begins in moments of silence, when the world fades and your thoughts get louder. It grows when you journal, when you meditate, when you pause before speaking, and when you question your automatic responses. It strengthens every time you take responsibility instead of making excuses. In a world that tells you to always look outward, compare, compete, impress, self-awareness pulls you inward. It asks you to be still, to watch, to listen, to observe the patterns you've been repeating and the roles you've been playing. It challenges you to stop performing and start becoming the real you. Not the version crafted to be accepted, but the version waiting to be unleashed. And the deeper you go, the clearer life becomes. Decisions aren't made from fear, but from clarity. Relationships aren't driven by need, but by connection. Success isn't defined by others, but by alignment. Self-awareness allows you to say yes with intention and no without guilt. It frees you from the trap of people-pleasing and gives you the space to live authentically. Think of it as a mirror that doesn't lie. It shows you your habits, your mindset, your desires, your wounds. It shows you the real cost of your distractions and the quiet dreams you've buried. And in that honesty, there is power. The power to change, to grow, to shift your entire life's trajectory, not by force, but by understanding. We all want balance. We all want fulfillment. But you can't balance a life you don't understand. And you can't fulfill a purpose you haven't uncovered. Self-awareness is where the noise ends and the truth begins. It's where your outer world begins to align with your inner world. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are finally in tune with what truly matters. It doesn't matter where you've been or how long you've lived on autopilot. The moment you choose to become aware, to really see yourself, is the moment everything changes. You become more intentional with your time, more honest in your relationships, and more aligned in your purpose. You stop settling for surface-level living and begin to crave depth. You stop chasing and start creating. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop hiding and start stepping into the fullness of who you are. You become a mirror for others too, an example of what it looks like to live awake, aware, and alive. You said, energy is more valuable than time. You can schedule more hours, but you can't fake vitality. You can cross 100 things off your to-do list, but if you're drained, distracted, or disconnected, none of it will matter. Energy is the silent driver behind every dream, every decision, every meaningful connection. It's what gives color to your thoughts and strength to your actions. That's why protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's survival. Every day, you wake up with a limited supply of energy. And from the moment your eyes open, the world starts making withdrawals. Notifications start buzzing. Obligations start knocking. People start asking. The world doesn't wait for you to check in with yourself. It pulls, it pushes, it pressures. And if you're not conscious, if you're not intentional, you'll give away everything you have and wonder why you're left running on fumes. Protecting your energy means becoming a guardian of your peace. It means learning to say no, not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. You don't owe your presence to every event, your attention to every voice, or your reaction to every problem. Just because something is urgent doesn't mean it's important. Just because someone is loud doesn't mean they're right. Just because the world is moving fast doesn't mean you have to move with it. There's a difference between being kind and being available to everyone at all times. There's a difference between helping others and constantly being drained by them. People who respect you will understand your boundaries. People who don't were only benefiting from your lack of them. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters. They allow in what aligns and keep out what depletes. Without them, your life becomes a revolving door for stress, chaos, and emotional clutter. Energy isn't just physical. It's emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual, and it's stolen in subtle ways. By the scroll of social media, by overthinking conversations that already happened, by saying yes when every cell in your body screams no. Sometimes the loudest energy thief is your own inner critic, replaying stories that no longer serve you. Protecting your energy also means protecting yourself from yourself. From guilt, from people-pleasing, from perfectionism disguised as productivity. You have to ask yourself, what gives me energy? What drains me? What environments do I leave feeling lighter and which ones feel like they've taken something from me? Who in my life adds to me? Who subtracts? Who multiplies my joy and who divides my focus? Your answers to those questions are your map. And that map will show you exactly where your boundaries need to go. Energy protection isn't about isolation, it's about intention. It's about being fully present with what matters most, your well-being, your values, your growth. It's knowing when to step in and when to step back. It's understanding that rest is not a reward, it's a responsibility. When you rest, reflect, and recharge, you're not wasting time. You're strengthening your power. You're refilling what the world constantly tries to empty. There are seasons for hustle, yeah, but even the most powerful machines need fuel. You cannot give your best when you feel your worst. You cannot pour into others when your own cup is empty. Protecting your energy means choosing long-term peace over short-term praise. It means understanding that your worth is not tied to how much you do, but how well you are. You must become ruthless about your peace. That might mean unplugging. That might mean walking away from the table where your value isn't recognized. That might mean creating space in your day for silence, for stillness, for reflection. It might mean letting go of people who are no longer aligned with where you're going, even if they've been with you for years. It might mean forgiving yourself for the times you allowed your energy to be stolen because you didn't know how to protect it yet. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. It's leadership, it's power. And it begins the moment you decide that your energy is sacred and that not everyone and not everything deserves access to it. Everyone loves to talk about goals. Set them, visualize them, chase them. From vision boards to journal prompts, we're taught that success starts with knowing what you want. And while clarity is powerful, goals alone are never enough, because a goal without a system is just a wish. It's a hope floating in your mind, waiting for the perfect moment that never arrives. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the strength of your systems. Goals are outcome-based. They focus on the destination. But systems are process-based. They focus on the path. A goal might be to get fit, but a system is waking up every morning to move your body, choosing nourishing food, and prioritizing sleep. A goal might be to grow your business, but a system is showing up daily, improving your craft, connecting with people, and tracking what works. Systems are what carry you when motivation runs out, because motivation will run out. And discipline built on systems is what takes over. We often set goals because they give us direction. But too often, people get stuck in the trap of only chasing results. They wait until they lose 10 pounds to feel confident. They wait until they hit a milestone to feel proud. They wait until the dream is achieved to feel fulfilled. But systems teach you to love the process. Systems create wins every day. They're the difference between someone who always starts and someone who finishes. Systems build identity. When you show up consistently, even in small ways, you begin to see yourself differently. You stop saying, "I want to be healthy," and start becoming someone who values health. You stop dreaming about being a writer and start acting like one by writing daily. No matter how small, your identity shifts from wanting to doing, from dreaming to becoming. And that shift, that's where real transformation lives. Goals often live in the future. They can make you feel like where you are now isn't enough. But systems live in the now. They anchor you. They bring the abstract into the physical. You don't have to wait for the perfect conditions. You just have to start showing up. Systems teach you that success isn't one big leap. It's the sum of thousands of small intentional steps. And every day you execute your system, you cast a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. You see, the problem isn't that people don't have goals. It's that they build their identity around achieving rather than becoming. They focus so much on the finish line that they forget to train for the race. A goal might give you something to chase, but a system gives you something to follow, something to trust, something to return to when things get hard, when you fall, when you fail, because you will fail. And without a system, failure feels like the end. With a system, it's just part of the cycle. Systems create stability. They remove decision fatigue. You don't have to wonder what to do every day. You already know. Systems automate success. They reduce friction. And in a world full of distractions, they bring you back to what matters. They aren't glamorous. They aren't loud, but they are consistent. They're the quiet power behind every extraordinary life. When you build systems, you're not just chasing a goal, you're building a structure that supports your future. You're turning intention into habit, effort into identity, and discipline into freedom. You stop relying on willpower because the system does the heavy lifting. You stop waiting for the right mood because you've already created the right method. You stop hoping things will change and you start changing things with every action you repeat, every habit you refine, every day you show up even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Systems make success inevitable, not optional. They create momentum, they create rhythm, they create results you can sustain, and they shape a life that doesn't just reach goals, but grows far beyond them. In a world built on images, filters, and highlight reels, it has become far too easy to measure your worth by someone else's moment. Comparison is a quiet thief. It doesn't always scream. It whispers. It slips into your mind when you scroll through your phone and see someone else's success, someone else's smile, someone else's version of the life you wish you had. And before you even realize it, you begin to shrink. You begin to question your pace, your purpose, your progress. But the truth is, Comparison and connection cannot coexist. One isolates, the other unites. One creates envy, the other creates empathy. One feeds insecurity, the other builds trust. You cannot walk fully into your own life while constantly staring into someone else's window. The lie of comparison is that someone else's success takes something away from you. That if they're winning, you must be losing. That if they're shining, you must be dim. But life isn't a limited supply game. There is no finish line we're all racing toward. There's no single timeline for how things should unfold. When you believe that someone else's journey diminishes your own, you forget that your path was never meant to look like theirs. You forget that what you bring to the world is uniquely yours. Your thoughts, your voice, your story, your impact. No one else can offer what you do when you are fully you. Comparison robs the present of its power. It pulls you into regret about the past and anxiety about the future. It makes you miss the beauty that is unfolding in your own life because you're too busy staring at someone else's chapter. But connection does the opposite. Connection grounds you. It reminds you that everyone is carrying something you can't see. That behind every polished post and glowing review is a human being with struggles, doubts, insecurities, and pain. Connection humanizes what comparison dehumanizes. It brings us back to the shared experience of what it means to be alive, to strive, to struggle, and to grow. When you choose connection over comparison, you choose to celebrate rather than compete. You choose to learn rather than judge. You choose to grow together rather than isolate yourself. Connection says, I see you, I honor your story, and I'm not threatened by your success. That kind of mindset not only frees others, it frees you to run your race with peace in your heart and purpose in your step. It frees you to admire without envy. It frees you to be inspired without feeling small. Because when you're deeply connected to who you are, someone else's greatness doesn't make you feel less. It reminds you of what's possible. Choosing connection doesn't mean you don't have ambition. It means your ambition is rooted in authenticity, not comparison. It means you're building a life from the inside out, not the outside in. It means you're choosing substance over status, depth over appearance, alignment over applause. It means you understand that true fulfillment doesn't come from being better than others. It comes from being better than who you were yesterday and lifting others up as you rise. The irony is, the more you compare, the less connected you feel. And the less connected you feel, the more you compare. It becomes a cycle that drains your energy and dims your spirit. But when you reach out, when you open up, when you connect with someone, instead of competing with them, something powerful happens. Walls fall, stories unfold, healing begins. We were not made to compete with each other. We were made to complete each other, to bring our strengths together, to share what we've learned, to rise not alone, but alongside others who are walking their own path with courage. So instead of asking, why not me? Ask, what does this awaken in me? Instead of shrinking in someone else's light, step into your own. Instead of judging the journey you don't fully understand, connect with the person behind it. That's where fulfillment lives. That's where balance grows. That's where comparison ends and connection begins. In a world that never stops talking, silence has become rare, almost uncomfortable. We fill every moment with noise, conversations, notifications, headlines, background music, because silence feels empty. But silence is not emptiness. It's presence. It's space. It's clarity. It's the place where truth has room to breathe and where you finally hear what the world cannot tell you, what the noise always tries to drown out. In silence, you don't lose yourself. You find yourself. When you let silence speak, you step into a deeper form of awareness. You start to notice the thoughts beneath the surface, the emotions you've buried, the dreams you've delayed. You begin to separate your true voice from the voices you've absorbed. The opinions, expectations, comparisons, they all lose their grip when they can't hide behind constant noise. Silence brings you home. It makes room for intuition, for wisdom, for the soft but powerful signals your soul has been trying to send you. In silence, your inner compass begins to realign. You begin to remember who you are without all the distractions. We often confuse being busy with being alive, but there's a kind of aliveness that only silence can reveal. Silence teaches you how to sit with discomfort, how to breathe through uncertainty, how to observe without reacting. It teaches patience. It sharpens perception. It slows down the rush and lets the dust settle. Only in silence can you recognize the difference between urgency and importance, between reaction and response, between noise and truth. You don't need to fill every gap with words. Not every question demands an answer right away. Some of the most profound realizations emerge not in conversation, but in contemplation. Letting silence speak also teaches emotional intelligence. You learn that not every feeling needs to be broadcast, not every thought needs to be shared. There's strength in restraint, wisdom in waiting, healing in stillness. Silence allows wounds to surface, but it also creates space for them to begin to heal. Sometimes what you need is not more advice, not more input, but the courage to sit quietly and listen to yourself, to your body, to your spirit. Silence can be confronting, but is also cleansing. It clears the mental clutter. It brings you back to center. It allows you to hear what truly matters. In relationships, silence isn't a void. It's a signal. It reveals comfort, tension, truth. The pauses between words often speak louder than the words themselves. The willingness to sit in silence with someone is a sign of depth, not distance. And the ability to hold silence within yourself without rushing to fill it is a mark of maturity, not passivity. When you let silence speak in your interactions, you learn to listen fully, not just to the words being said, but to the emotions underneath them. You begin to hear with your heart, not just your ears. Creativity is also born in silence. Innovation doesn't arise from constant noise. It comes from space. Ideas need stillness to take form, to stretch out, to connect in new ways. Silence is not the absence of productivity. It is the soil in which it grows. It's where inspiration lands and where reflection turns into clarity. If you're always filling your mind, how will the new ever arrive? If you never pause, how will you notice the subtle, brilliant connections forming just beneath the surface? Silence isn't passive. It's powerful. It gives you back control of your thoughts, your emotions, your direction. It reminds you that your voice has more power when it comes from a place of inner peace, not outer pressure, that your decisions are more grounded when they come from reflection, not reaction. When you let silence speak, you reclaim space that the world constantly tries to invade. You reclaim peace in a time that rewards noise. You reclaim yourself in a culture that often teaches you to be everything to everyone except who you really are. There is something extraordinary that happens when you begin to live beyond your own reflection, when your decisions, actions, and intentions are no longer just about what benefits you, but about what uplifts others. That shift from self to service awakens a deeper part of you, a more meaningful kind of fulfillment, the kind that doesn't fade when the applause stops, that doesn't disappear when the spotlight moves. Because when you serve a purpose greater than yourself, you tap into something timeless, something powerful, something that outlives your temporary circumstances. So much of what we're taught in modern life is about individual achievement. Be the best, get more, win, stand out. And while there's nothing wrong with excellence or ambition, when those goals exist only for personal gain, they can quickly lose their meaning. You get what you wanted but feel empty. You reach the top, but look around and realize you climbed a ladder that led nowhere fulfilling. True success doesn't come from climbing higher. It comes from lifting others as you rise. It comes from using your strength, your knowledge, your resources to build something that extends beyond you. Serving a greater purpose doesn't require fame, wealth, or grand gestures. It starts with intention. It begins when you ask, how can I leave things better than I found them? Whether it's in your work, your relationships, or the way you treat strangers, purpose is not about magnitude. It's about meaning. When you show up each day with the desire to contribute, to heal, to teach, to inspire, to love, you become part of something bigger. You create ripples. You spark movement. And often you do it without even realizing it. There's a unique kind of power that comes from knowing your life is not just about you, that your pain can serve as someone else's roadmap, that your growth can guide others through their own, that your story, no matter how broken, can bring light to someone who's walking through their darkest hour. When you carry that sense of responsibility, not as a burden, but as a calling, you move differently. You speak with intention. You lead with compassion. You become more than a person. You become a presence. Purpose gives pain meaning. It transforms challenges into chapters, not endings. It reminds you that the struggles you face may shape you so that you can one day help someone else survive theirs. You start to realize that life isn't just happening to you, it's happening through you for a reason far greater than comfort or convenience. Every hardship becomes fuel. Every lesson becomes a gift. Every failure becomes part of a story that someone else may one day need to hear. Serving something greater than yourself also keeps you grounded. It protects you from ego and entitlement. It reminds you that life is fleeting, and what truly matters isn't how much you take, but how much you give. It's not about what you accumulate, but what you contribute. The most fulfilled people are rarely the ones who have the most. They're the ones who give the most, love the most, care the most, serve the most. They build legacies that can't be measured in numbers, but are felt in hearts. When you live for something bigger than you, your energy changes. Your motivation becomes sustainable. You no longer need to be pushed because you are pulled by a mission, by a cause, by a belief that your life has value far beyond your own experience. You stop chasing shallow validation because your purpose already validates your existence. You realize that real power lies not in how much you achieve, but in how much you elevate others in the process. The beauty of serving a higher purpose is that it multiplies. What you give returns in ways you never expect. One act of kindness sparks another. One bold decision creates courage in someone else. One small step in service becomes a giant leap for someone watching silently from the sidelines. You never truly know how far your impact will reach. But when you live to serve something greater, you don't need to know. You just need to trust that what you do with love, with heart, with purpose, always finds its way back into the world with even more strength than it left your hands. Tools.